Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Sunday evening edition of the Sounding Off podcast. I am your host, Eddie Gonzalez, aka the Moscow photographer from Moscow, Russia. And with me this evening is my partner in crime, Kevin
Idiot in
Michelizzi.
crime. Yeah.
Idiot in crime, absolutely. And we have a special guest tonight who is no idiot whatsoever, but is a distinguished gentleman himself. Stanislav Kaprivnik, welcome to the Sounding Off podcast.
Welcome. I don't know about the gentleman part, but I try once in a while, put on a good face.
We just try to be nice in the very beginning, and then we'll beat up on you later. Okay, this is the way we do it.
No problem.
By the end of the show, we'll make you an honorary idiot.
You'll definitely be an idiot. So, for those of you who do not know Stanislav Kaprivnik, he has a podcast on a YouTube channel called In the Eyes of Truth. Am I right, Stas?
Yep. So it's both English and Russian, two of them in parallel.
And Stas has an interesting story, and we'd like to hear. What is your background? Tell us.
But by the way, there's a Russian saying, "Два дебила это сила." Two idiots is its own strength, or its own power.
Imagine three.
But three idiots, that's a whole different reality.
Yeah.
Well, 7 years ago, our ancestors came upon the other history. I'm sorry. I was a kid when we came to the U.S. I'm doing the short story so I don't take too much time. Came to the U.S. in '79. My father was a dissident, a liberal dissident, and in the 5 years when he got his citizenship, he was registered Republican. So, yeah, liberalism is great on paper until you see it live. Then you start, and that was the old liberalism, not the woke crap of today. Grew up in the U.S., mostly in the South and North Carolina. So went to university in '90. Went into ROTC in '91. Joined the National Guard in '93 as an enlisted man. In '95 became an active duty officer. And left service in 2004, summer of 2004, July of 2004, to be exact. So put in about almost 11 years. No, 11 years, a month less. Been all over the place. Saw a bunch of things. And then went into heavy industry. Actually did some computer programming for a couple of years. And then finished an MBA in supply chain. Got the hell out of IT because that sector was dying, dead, and they were still importing H-1B visas by the tens of thousands. Never mind, your own people don't have work, so we'll just import a couple tens of thousands more for shits and giggles. And then 2010, I went 2006 to finish my MBA in supply chain. Went to work in oil and gas service companies, Halliburton, and then Cameron. And boy, can I tell you some stories about Halliburton. We'll talk about corrupt company. That's aside the point. And then came back to Russia on a permanent basis in 2010. So been here since then.
Good.
Home.
And just to round out the story, where were you born?
I was born in Lugansk, the city the Ukrainians have been bombing for 10 years. So that's now the Lugansk People's Republic as a province of Russia.
LPR. Absolutely. All right. Well, again, welcome to the Sounding Off podcast. And tonight we have a topic. What is our topic? I forgot what our topic is.
Western exceptionalism.
Oh, that attitude.
And how Americans come here and don't understand how it will be perceived in Russia by Russians.
I'm an American. You talk to me with respect. You understand? You give me some service and you give it to me right now.
Yeah. take that exceptionalism when you get on that plane and hanging up right outside the gate and get on the plane.
Yep.
Pretty
Anywhere,
much.
any country you go to for that matter. Well, almost any country. There's a few that kiss your ass. Oh, you're a foreigner.
So I actually had a comment about this, and Alex was asking about it. I am not going to discuss them by name, but he was asking about a Protestant mafia in Russia because a family has done a video about the Protestant mafia and how it's run by one of the Duma members. And,
A video?
you know, huh?
Just a video?
Well, one specifically about calling them mafia. And Stas, if you're not aware of it, I'll send you the video later because
Okay.
it disappeared, but some of us still have it.
It did disappear.
Oh yeah, they deleted it right away. Somebody told them they were in violation of the Russian Federation laws against making false statements against a politician.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so they pulled it down. They made another video talking about RTVI and how it was an awful television network and they had a bad reputation. They didn't know it at the time. They confused it with RTTV. So, however, this is what originally got me thinking about this topic because a lot of Westerners come here with the attitude of, I'm a Westerner moving to Russia, and because Russia wants people, I'm doing them a favor. So they should bend over backwards to take care of me, rather than looking at it the other way, which is Russia's giving you an opportunity to live in a normalized country. So they're doing you a favor as a Westerner.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
whole opening dialogue.
Oh, it's spot on. Well, you know, in the 90s, that was the attitude that worked. Because in the 90s, everybody wanted to show, hey, look how progressive I am. I've got an American or a Brit or somewhere on my staff. Never mind, they don't do anything. you cart them out. Look, I've got a foreigner. He works for me. And you cart them back out. You know, any idiot could get a well-paying job with any Russian company just because, you know, his passport was some other color, and he probably didn't speak Russian. So from the 90s, yeah, but that pretty much all changed back around 2008, 2009, maybe even started to change and then went away fully about 2014, 2015.
So we have a comment here from Raymond. He considers himself a guest when he's in Russia and shows due respect. This is the proper attitude to have.
You know, not only that, but my last visa that I had was a private visa. And on my visa, it says guest and in Russian. And so that's exactly what the private visa is. It's a guest visa.
Yep. You're going for вид на жительство?
Еще раз, пожалуйста.
You going for the вид на жительство?
Eventually. Currently, I have RVP, which is a temporary residency permit. And eventually, I will apply for permanent residency and, God willing, citizenship when that's available.
If your wife is Russian, so you should be able to go right for the вид на жительство, the permanent residency.
I can't because we don't have any children together. If we had a child,
for the citizenship was child requirements for citizenship. Not for
new requirement. You have to have a child together.
For the вид на жительство also?
As far as I know.
Ooh,
yes. And also coming up next year, they've changed the rule to where just because you are married to a Russian citizen, you cannot immediately apply for temporary residency. Now you have to wait 3 years. So I just got my TRP based on marriage to a Russian citizen almost immediately after marriage. But now, beginning, I can't remember what date, in 2025, you're going to have to wait 3 years.
Yeah,
But you can get a temporary residency if you're without Russian, if you are conservative and you accept the conservative values.
Yes, if you go through that route, right. So there are many, multiple ways to get a TRP nowadays.
Yeah, and people often, they say, well, I should be able to come this way when I come next year. But it changes so often because the 3-year marriage requirement was in place until last September, and they changed it to remove it. And now they're adding it back on, because when I came here, you had to have the 3 years of marriage.
Wow.
But they counted my time married to my wife in the United States, so I was covered.
Now,
absolutely. Go ahead.
Something that doesn't get mentioned, and most people don't know about, I don't think. If you speak Russian, and I'm not talking you've taken 3 courses of Russian. I'm talking about you can watch a 30-minute documentary, take notes, because if you don't take notes, even if you're fluent, you're going to fail, and then answer questions on that documentary, and then keep a conversation with somebody. You can go right towards citizenship. It's called Носитель русского языка, so carrier of the Russian language, which shows that you're fluent. You get a certificate for that. It used to be you had to give up your citizenship previously, but you don't have to anymore. And then within, you have a 2-year window, but within 6 months, you can file and get citizenship. And to get that citizenship, it takes like 3.5 months. So it's a fast way, but you got to be fluent. I mean, really fluent, not, a couple semesters and hey, I can order off a menu in McDonald's.
Yeah, not Kevin fluent.
Definitely not Eddie fluent.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, if you can watch a 30-minute documentary on something, take notes, and then answer written questions, that's a pretty good sign. You can pass. I think the exams are like once a month in Moscow. I don't know about the other cities.
Interesting.
That's actually how I got my citizenship. My wife and kids got it because I'm from Lugansk, but Lugansk was part of Country 404 at that point. So, yeah, but it works, right? But I mean, my wife got her citizenship first, and they went because they were all off of my высококвалифицированный специалист, highly qualified specialist visa. And then I went after them and wound up going a slightly different route. But I could have gotten as a spouse, but they said, yeah, it's less paperwork this way. I'm like, I don't care, whatever works faster. And I had the certificate anyways to carry Russian language, so yeah, it went the way it went.
Very good. Just curious, Stas, is your wife Russian or is she American?
She's part Russian. She's from Republic of Georgia.
Okay,
so,
copy that.
She lived in the U.S. with me for a portion of the. Well, she lived with me in the U.S. and then we immigrated with the family back in 2010.
Yeah, I did know. Just curious how the connection with Russia came in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody mentioned Носитель русского языка has been canceled. So that pop up.
Yeah, that's. Lost it here. I took it back down. Yeah, that's what Sergey said.
Gotta check that. I'm surprised. That sucks if they did.
Yeah, this
and
is the
it could
first
be
I've heard
re-implemented again next year. So
you never know.
Next month.
Yeah. So Eddie, you know about this one. Being strict on fake marriages for temporary residency. You had a visit just this last week, right?
So I've had 2 visits. I had a visit from the police right after I applied for TRP during the investigation phase. And then just out of the blue last week, we got visited by the police again. I wasn't home at the time when they came. So the next day we had to go meet with them at the police department. And this was MFC. So this was the not police, this is immigration police. And essentially they were canvassing the district of all of the foreigners who were married and had residency and wanted to verify that their marriage was not fake, that they were living where they said they were living, and that they could prove to this immigration officer to a degree that he believed that it was not a fake marriage. So we spent about, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 minutes talking with him while he filled in paperwork, and that was the end of it. So they keep close tabs on their immigrants, not like the U.S.
Wait, the U.S. keeps any tabs? Wait, I thought it was catch and release or just pass along and bus to some other place. There you go. Here's another busload. Which, by the way, it was genius for Texas to send them to Martha's Vineyard and all the other rich liberal, we'll call them shitholes, but enclaves of elitism.
That's appropriate.
You know, they sent them to New York, which is a city of 9 million, and the first 2 busloads, and the mayor of New York is already screaming, "We're collapsing! We can't take anymore!" Like when 100 people arrived. Christ,
crazy.
Yeah, we're no longer a sanctuary city. Don't send us another busload. Another 50 people. We'll drop dead. We'll have a revolution on our hands. Oh, New York.
You know, maybe that's not such a bad idea, but I digress.
Yeah, New York. That's all you got to say for most people in the world. New York. Yeah.
So, hey, Stas, did you know that it is okay in the United States to redefine Jesus?
I think they've been redefining Jesus in the United States for about the last 40 years. Yeah, I've seen some videos that were really cringeworthy.
We have one for you.
Oh God, is it?
There are countless examples, and this is just one of
it.
It's one of them, where I see someone wearing the name of Christianity and I cringe because it does not look like the Christianity I want to be associated with. There are examples all of us have in our own lives. What's worse is when you get to actual stories in Scripture that make you go, "Ugh, that's not quite the example of Jesus I want." And this is one of them. Jesus and the Syrophoenician woman. And I name this because we often aren't given permission to say, "I don't like that thing in Scripture," because it is such a sacred text, but it's a text that can handle some wrestling, okay? It has withstood centuries, so we can argue with it a little bit, okay? Jesus' treatment of the Syrophoenician woman is the last example of Christianity that I want. She is desperate. Her daughter is suffering and comes to Jesus begging for help, and he basically says that she's less than a dog. I mean, it is not a good look on Jesus. And I hate that it is supposed to be upheld as a scriptural example for us, because that's not the Jesus I pray to. That is not the Jesus I know. We've also tried to encapsulate Jesus into this one unmovable, unchangeable thing. But Jesus didn't come just as full God walking around amongst us. Jesus came to be fully human.
And fully God.
So I look to this scripture, not for Jesus' divinity, but for his humanity.
Actually, I think I got that from you, didn't I, Stas?
Yeah, you did. I'm going to put my Orthodox hat on and wear about as conservative as it friggin' gets, and we make the Catholics look like a bunch of hippies, since Vatican II anyways. Sorry to all the Catholics out there. I think those are Lutherans, because the Lutheran Church in the U.S. has gone so far off the deep end. They've decided, they found a whole new level of, well, I'm gonna try to be nice for some reason. St. Paul, I believe it was St. Paul, or was it St. Peter, said women shall not preach in the church. I think that's the reason he said that.
Oh, yeah.
You don't take things on your wacky emotional grunge state at the moment. You interpret the Bible as it was written. St. Matthew's was written by St. Matthew. I mean, I'm sorry, the Gospel of Matthew was written by Saint Matthew within about 50 years of the birth of Christ, so about 20 years after crucifixion. For those who think that it's all been made up, many generations later. The Christ is fully God and fully man. It's Deus is at the same time. You can't separate one from the other. The monotheists are the ones that either say he's fully God, or the which is a heresy, and the Gnostics said he was fully human, and then became God, which is also a heresy. And those are old heresies that came up with the Arians back in the 200s and 300s and the 400s. So they're just basically repeating those. Yay. Not that they probably know about it.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is all.
It's coming out again.
Well, Calvinism is basically Arianism rehashed. You have no free will. Because if you look at Calvinism, God knows everything. He does. But he doesn't know your one future. He knows all your possible futures. Because you still have your free will. So all those little matrix of what your each action will, he knows them all. But he doesn't pluck you and put you into one path, and that's it. Because that means there's no free will. If there's no free will, there's no point in Christ. Because you're either saved or damned no matter what anybody does. By Calvinism. Calvinism is absolute anti-Christian religion. It's Satanism, if anything else.
Eddie's quiet.
I'm reading comments.
Trying to keep up with them.
Am I getting flamed at this point?
No. We're actually not. No, but we're talking about this is Joe, and I can't remember his last name.
I've seen, by the way, I got sent that deck of slides from the FBI that described domestic terrorism on all the different characteristics. By the way, I hit like 43 out of 70 or something of characteristics. Because, by the way, if you believe in God or you believe in gun ownership and you believe in traditional Christianity, you're a terrorist. And yeah, it really did basically click off the Catholic Church. And Orthodoxy is even more conservative than Catholic, so it's like uber terrorism.
Yeah, I did a video with that, and where I called myself I'm a domestic terrorist. I'm a domestic terrorist. Yeah, according to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, the whole Confederacy is domestic terrorist.
Yeah, but this is crazy. But this is absolutely right.
Time for the South to rise again, because we shall bring the South back up on its from its knees back up on its feet. The South shall rise. The FBI is like, ding!
Yeah, and if that resonates with you and you're in Moscow, once a year, you can go with Stas to the U.S. Embassy. Twice a year? Yeah, there you go. And you, too, can march with that banner.
That's right. We do Antietam, and we also do Bull Run, or Manassas, First Manassas, the anniversary of it. Probably we might do 3 this year. Who knows? Maybe the establishment of the Confederacy. And when you play those Confederate songs right across from the embassy, they really get a kick out of that.
Yeah, send me an invite next time you go.
I'm a good old rebel. Oh yeah, that's one of them fighting songs. I'm a good old. I can't sing worth a damn. I don't do karaoke either. Even when I'm drunk, I don't do karaoke. I don't want to torture people.
Well, I have a video here that I want to play that talks about this American exceptionalism and hypocrisy that just really chaps my hide. So let's bring this guy on.
Still poised to strike Iran, and in July, Blinken said that Iran was 1 to 2 weeks away from developing a nuclear weapon. So I guess for all we know, they might have one by now. And meanwhile, in Ukraine, they've struck deep within Russian territory several times, as deep as 300 miles from the border. And in that case, we don't have to guess. We know that Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet, as many as 6,000 warheads. And so one of the risks of arming militaries that are striking in the territories of nuclear powers is that one of those gets deployed, and then it could escalate very quickly from there. So it's rarely discussed, but it's important to address that the nuclear risk is real, and it could very abruptly mean the end of, what humans have worked for thousands of years to collectively achieve.
Weasel time.
Didn't mean to preempt you on that one, Eddie.
What? What
We're
was
very
that?
lucky to live with the fruits of that achievement, and I feel like we're treating the risks kind of brazenly. So my question for you is, we often hear in response to these concerns that, well, Putin, Khomeini, they're war criminals, they're terrorists, as if they're too inherently evil or immoral for us to negotiate with. But meanwhile, this administration has financed a genocide in Gaza for the last year, and every day you're up there denying accountability for it. So, what gives you the right to lecture other countries on their moral?
So, if you have a policy question for me, I'm happy to take it. If you want to give a speech,
No, but
there are places in Washington where you can give a speech.
Yeah, but people are sick of the bullshit in here. It is a genocide. You are abetting it, and you are risking nuclear war in Ukraine for this proxy war.
Plenty of other places to give a speech. Go ahead.
Let's put this guy on. Where is he? This dude, Matt Miller. What a freaking weasel.
Ignorance and arrogance often go hand in hand. And that's the whole Biden administration.
All of it. All of it.
By the way, with Trump, what did they say? Oh, I'm going to come to power. I'm going to call Putin and say, enough of this. And what do you expect? Oh, I'm sorry. The master's here. Pardon me, master. Don't beat me no more. I'm just a good old boy slave. Don't beat me. I'll do what you ever say, master. Put the whip down, master. Seriously. It is that exceptionalism. I'll just call them and they will damn well know what to do because I'm going to tell them what to do. And they're going to obey.
Exactly.
Yeah. With that middle finger.
Yeah,
they wouldn't
Western
do that.
politicians will say anything to get elected.
Yeah, but they'll also do almost anything because they're out of just pure ignorance.
Well, yeah.
By the way, on a side note, so I sent a couple of my guys to I was director of supply chain in Halliburton, Eurasia. Sent a couple of guys to the U.S. And plus some metallurgists from some of our suppliers. And one of them had learned some English. I wasn't there, unfortunately, to see this, but my right-hand man was there. And the guy had learned some English and wanted to show off. So they're in Houston in a restaurant. And the guy looks at the waiter and says, "Boy, come here." Whoa, man, that's, talk about stepping on a landmine in the South. Boy, come here.
Wrong.
Yeah. From what I understand, it went downhill relatively quickly from that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's much different like when an old man would call you, son, we need to talk.
Well, that's one thing as an old
That's
guy.
different.
Boy.
Hey, boy, come here.
Woo. Yeah. In the South of all places. Yeah, that's
Oh, man.
one of those cultural moments, cultural education.
Absolutely. So let's
in
talk about
Russian,
that.
by the way, it's "мальчик, иди сюда," which is not, if you're talking to somebody younger, it's not insulting. Doesn't translate well.
But let's talk about that when you've got President Trump, making a statement like that. Of course, there's a lot of us, me included. I understand where it's coming from and who that message was meant for. It certainly wasn't meant for President Putin. It wasn't meant for Russian government. He's trying to win an election. But that same attitude, there are millions of Americans who understand that attitude. So they appreciate when they hear President Trump say that, hey, all I got to do is pick up the phone, call President Putin and say, hey, chill out. Okay, I'm going to put a stop to this. There are millions and millions of Americans that respond to that and say, that's the guy I want as a leader. Imagine some of those people coming and moving to Russia with that same attitude. That's the ones that are going to have an issue when they get here.
Let me ask you this. I'm halfway surprised, honestly, that Trump's still breathing. Do you honestly think the Democrats, if he's alive to the elections, which may be now, I got nothing against Trump, and I'm not rooting for him to get whacked or anything, but I'm looking realistically at what he's dealing with. If he makes it to the elections, do you honestly believe the Democrats are not going to steal it the same way they did in 2020?
It's not over yet. It's not over yet.
Yeah.
I don't know what they have in their playbook. Probably stuff we haven't seen yet. But yeah, it's not going to be easy. I don't either way. Trump wins or Kamala wins. It's the worst outcome. It's because
Nothing
of what's
will
going to
change.
happen after it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, by the way, Kamala, I don't know if it's still on her website or not. She had on her website, she had a plan for Ukraine, where within the next 4 years, she was planning on handing them, sit tight, $540 billion.
Well, that's
Billion,
why
not
they're only
million.
giving. That's why they're only giving Florida hurricane victims $750.
Yeah, and that's after you prove damage. Now, when you don't have power, you don't have internet, you don't have running water because it's all been washed out. There's miles and miles of roads that have been washed out. Whole villages have been crushed by mudslides. How are you going to prove anything if you're still even alive? And by the way, winter's coming. I mean, it's the mountains. It may be in the south, but it's still the mountains. It gets damn cold up in the Appalachians. And by the way, while I'm at it, just pulled up a little article I had earlier. Anybody remember Tina Peters?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She got 9 years in prison for election tampering. That is, she preserved the records off the Dominion voting machines when she and her collective were told to erase everything, and she blew the whistle on that. And now the Biden regime has given her 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolute travesty. Absolute.
You didn't help us cover it up.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of the, and the thing is, it's not a Democrat thing. It's a Democrat-Republican thing because there's treason on both sides. On both sides.
Oh yeah.
And this is true. In California, it's become illegal to check your ID at polling stations. You can't even ask.
Which, by the way, how is that even legal?
They made it legal.
Well, California makes a lot of crap legal that's illegal by the Constitution.
They made it legal. Of course, it's probably going to be challenged. But in the meantime, how many elections are going to occur before it gets all the way up through the courts and gets challenged?
Well, their Memi thing got shot down by the Supreme Court. That went up pretty fast. Supreme Court said, nope, you can't put people in jail for sending out sarcasm. Though there's been people put in jail for sending out sarcasm. But the one guy that was sending out memes on Hillary Clinton back in 2020.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah. It's because he was election tempering. Because, people believed him. If you have insurance, you'll be denied.
I don't know if this is true. I've never heard this. But you know what? I wouldn't doubt it. Because I also heard that $750 is not free. It's not a gift from Uncle Sam. It is a loan. You must claim it as income on your income tax, and then you have to pay it back.
Well, the lucky thing for all those people is they'll have an opportunity to get it because the usual thing they do in the U.S. after a big disaster is all the insurance companies file bankruptcy instantly.
Yeah,
I've had a couple of hurricanes hit my house in the past 10 years. I don't know how many, but several. And there's 2 claims that I filed with FEMA. Negative. 0. got nothing. So we'll see.
Back in, I guess it was 2002 or 2003, there was a hurricane that came through North Carolina and flooded central eastern North Carolina. And the thing about central eastern North Carolina, particularly more eastern North Carolina, is the pig farms. So you've got literally tens of thousands of pigs in these hangars that are in cages stacked up. And all, most countries, they'll take pig shit and whatever other animal feces, and they'll rework it into fertilizer. The Germans will hell. I mean, depending what valley you're in. I served in Germany for 2. So as you're driving one valley to another, you start to realize you start to know what animal the stench is coming from, because they'll cover their fields with it. There'll be chicken shit in one valley. It'll be pig shit in another valley, and you might as well breathe it in and just get numb, because if you got a couple kilometers you got to travel through that valley, and you're gonna suck it in whether you like it or not. But in North Carolina, all they did was make these runoff ponds, right? These extremely toxic runoff ponds. So you imagine 10,000 pigs, how much shit they produce a day. All of it going into a pond. And the greens will scream about everything, but occasionally, even a broken clock is right twice a day, unless it's electric or digital. So they said, sooner or later there's going to be a flood, and this is going to get real bad. And that flood came. And all those ponds got washed out. So you're talking about 2 meters, 1.5 meters of water. And that got onto everybody's houses. That went down people's wells. So the well water is no longer drinkable. Now the fields might be okay because it's fertilizer, but the people's houses sure as hell aren't. And so on and so on. And then FEMA brought in trailers for people to live in while they're filing for their claims. And 3 years later, most people couldn't even get the claims filed because it was so bureaucratically intense. They had to hire a lawyer. And these are people that lost everything. And they're sitting in their trailer watching their house rot.
And they talk about bureaucracy in Russia.
And one thing I will add to this. In Russia, when something like this happens, the government builds you a new house. They built whole new villages when there were fires that came through in 2010. And they do it relatively quickly. So, and it's free. It's not a grant. The government takes care of its people.
Look at Mariupol.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to finish putting together my little small video on Mariupol. About a third of the city's been, consider every single building in that city was damaged or destroyed from house to house fighting. About a third of the city's been restored. Fully brand new, like restored, plus brand new regions that were built up out of, from greenfielded.
Edelwolf says, Stan, where were you in Germany? He served in Germany from 86 to 88.
Oh, I was a teenager back then. I was popping pimples back then. No, I was in Germany between 96 and 98. Began 96 to the middle of
10 years later.
98. Yeah, 2.5 years, and then I went back to the States. Got reassigned back to the States, and then served out there. So yeah, well, I was in Germany half the time. Half the time I spent in the Balkans, running around, trying occasionally not to get my ass blown off.
I hear you. Hey, when the time is right, I will definitely like to travel to that area. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing how much the intensity of the construction. Yeah, it's huge. I was there. First time I went through Mariupol was in June, and end of June, and the second time was 2.5 or 3 weeks ago. Because we run out to the front lines and then bring humanitarian aid. We'll just leave it at that. So twice I've ran, and just in those 3 months in between, there's a lot more buildings under construction or renovation. Yeah. And it's a good driver for GDP, by the way. It really, actual disasters are a good driver for the economy. It's shit for if you're the one that's getting disastered, but it's as an overall economic motivation. It is
Well,
great.
Absolutely. Look at what happened right after 9/11. So, in fact, I was having a conversation with my wife about this earlier today. So we had 9/11 as a pretext. Of course, if we want to go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories, we can. But 9/11 happens, and the next thing we have is the Patriot Act, which was the most unpatriotic thing that Congress has passed in the last 100 years. We lost more of our rights with the Patriot Act than we had before. But guess what? They scared everyone. Everyone in America was so scared of terrorism that, oh, yes, our great leaders in Washington protect us. We need the Patriot Act. We need the Department of Homeland Security. Yes, I will give up my rights to you to keep us safe. And all we did was get screwed. So then we start looking for Osama bin Laden. But what did we hear? We have Dick Cheney, who used to run Halliburton, come up and say, oh, wait a minute. We need to talk about Saddam Hussein. And you're like, Saddam who? Yeah, the leader of Iraq. Where's that? He has weapons of mass destruction that are targeting the United States. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought Saddam Hussein did this. I thought we were supposed to look for him. And then we go and we destroy the country. Who goes in right after to fix it and build it? Halliburton.
Oh, one of them, yeah.
One of them, a big one. And this happens a lot. And war, it seems, is just, as you said, drives the economy. Why does it drive the economy? Because we go right in after it and build it back up again.
There is a slight difference, though. You're right. War drives the economy if you're supplying that war from home and if you're rebuilding your own home afterwards. The problem with Iraq, first of all, half the material the U.S. was pumping in wasn't made in the U.S., if not even more. Second of all, you're not rebuilding yourself. And the U.S. really didn't spend that much to destroy Saddam in Iraq because you're fighting a guy that can't reach up to your belt line, and you're beating up on them. It's like, not exactly a fair fight.
It wasn't.
The way the U.S., if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. It's called zero-sum costing. This has got to be the most insane form of sourcing materials that you could ever come up with. As somebody that had supply chain for 15 years in heavy industry, and for a supplier, this is a dream come true. For anybody else, this is only a government can afford this kind of insanity. Zero-sum costing. That's where you tell a supplier, okay, we understand you need about 10% profit. Maybe 15. Okay, let's just say 10% profit. So whatever the material costs plus 10%, that's your profit. So your emphasis is now what? Save money for the government? Yeah, right. You're going to find the most expensive shit that you can find, send it over there so you get your 10% as big as you can off of it. And you're going to tell your suppliers, mark it up, baby, mark it up, keep marking it up. And on top of that, they sent, there was insanity to the level of there were several trailers worth of computers that were burnt because they came and they didn't quite match the specs. So they just burned them, right? Got the next, of course, they got to keep the 10% markup off of all of that. They would send in semis over there, and they wouldn't send in spare filters and oil replacement oil or anything, radiators or anything else, any parts that are going to get clogged up from dust from being in a desert. So when the vehicle breaks down, they just burn it. Buy another semi. How much do semis cost? And so on and so on and so on. And then you got the contractor base. So this started with Dick Cheney when he became Dick Cheney, by the way, was Minister Secretary of Defense Then he became head of Halliburton. He was hired by Halliburton when Halliburton acquired Kellogg Brown and Root because he could get engineering projects for Halliburton. And he did. That's how Halliburton wound up in Iraq. Halliburton's oil and gas, so what would they care about Iraq, right? Outside of oil and gas. Well, there's several insanities. I'll just list off two big ones. First of all, the U.S. military, like any professional large military, can take care of itself and everything. However, when you deploy troops, for every combat soldier, you've got about 7 to 10 ash and trash. So you got combat support and combat service support. Combat support is your military intelligence, your police, military police, things like that. Your ash and trash, your full ash and trash, is your logistics units, your mechanics, your finance, and everything else. Your cooks, your cleaners, and so on and so on. And the military can do all of that for itself. But you're not going to send 150,000 combat troops. If you're going to supply all that ash and trash, you're going to wind up sending about 1 million troops. And that's kind of hard to sell to the public. But so you've got contract base. So you can send in 150,000 combat troops and backfill it up with contractors. And when you backfill it up with contractors, of course, first of all, what a private does for back then, $14,000 a year before taxes, a contractor is going to cost you quite a bit more. And here's an example of that. And by the way, when contractors, I'm not just talking about Blackwater, combat contractors. I'm talking about any contractor. When they get killed, nobody knows about it. The 4 Blackwater guys that everybody was up about was because it just got published. Because they were lynched, they were beaten, chopped up, lynched up, and there were videos taken of it, and that got out in the media. If that hadn't got out in the media, nobody would know they were dead, except the family members, Blackwater, obviously. It get hushed up. All of it gets hushed up. So when contractors get whacked, they don't exist. So however, how many actual casualties the U.S. took as far as U.S. citizens, God only knows. But when I'll give you a quick example. When I was doing my MBA, one of the girls I was in my class, her brother went to Afghanistan, and he was running in a laundromat, getting paid $70,000 tax-free, right, a year. He's getting $70,000. The company that sponsors him is getting twice his base pay. So this person's costing the U.S. government $210,000 a year plus living expenses. And for that, no, $70,000 a year doesn't get you a guy that's actually running the department or all this. It gets you a guy that runs 1 washing machine and 1 dryer. And there's 3 shifts. So you get 3 guys who run washing machines and dryers, 1 each. And then you got 10 washing machines, you got 30 people. Even if you're doing 2 shifts, fine, you got 20 people at $210,000 a pop to do laundry.
Wow.
Think about it. And now multiply that out.
Yeah.
Then, by the way, so it gets even better because the military can do everything. It can take, modern military can take sewage water and turn it into perfectly good, clean drinking water. Got the machines for it. But again, we're dealing with contractors. So Kellogg Brown and Root and some other companies, they had the machines, they had the trucks. They'd go pump water out of the Euphrates, which is pretty nasty because if you think about it, all that sewage is just going up every city, town upstream. They'd purify that water, and then they'd sell it back to the government at $450 a gallon, 4 liters. How much is a soldier going to drink a day? Just drinking. He's going to drink about 2.5, 3 liters at least a day. So a gallon, in the heat. At $450 a gallon. Diesel. How much diesel does the military use in a day when everything runs on diesel except for Abrams tanks? They would ride down to Kuwait, buy diesel at 15 cents a gallon, ship it back up 300 kilometers, and sell it back to the army at $400 or $500 a gallon.
Incredible.
$11 trillion is what the U.S. spent on Afghanistan and on Iraq. 7 to 11. Nobody really knows. It's the end. Historians will be digging out at the actual end quantities, but even $7 trillion. Holy shit! And Americans that have just got screwed are getting screwed again for $750. Here you go. Go die somewhere in a corner in a tent.
Exactly. Wow. And that's why so many people, are upset about it. Yeah.
You notice that first and foremost, it's all about the South. The South gets screwed constantly. So Fort Bragg is no longer Fort Bragg; it's now Fort Liberty. So they've taken out the Southern names. They took down the Southern statues.
Yeah. Fort Hood's
Southern
not Hood anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're spitting on the South nonstop.
Sound like any other countries that are puppets of the United States?
Yeah. So
We can name a few.
yeah. Oh, the Prime Minister of Japan said a no-no. He talked about I don't remember the guy's name, the new one. He talked about how he was in shock when he was in 6th grade, and in his history class they told him how the U.S. nuked Japan. And in the last survey, it was 60% of the youth thought Russia nuked Japan.
That's
I see
amazing.
an assassination coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did one already. So
Yeah. So
I am going to say, if any of you out there have questions for Stanislav, put it down in the comments. If you have any questions for him. Now that you know his background and his expertise. Let's see what we got here.
and check out In the Eyes of Truth. It's on YouTube. I also have it on Telegram because I don't trust YouTube not to erase it. But
tell us about that. Tell us about your podcast. How often do you have it, and what do you talk about?
It depends. Kevin's been on my podcast a couple of times. Need to bring him back on. You were just on. I haven't published yours obviously yet, but I run. It's under Mr. Slavic Man. I run. And that's all one word. I run. I also have two Telegram channels. Stas Today Obratno, which is in Russian, and Stas was there, which is in English. And then I run. I upload everything because I back it up on Telegram just in case because I don't trust YouTube. So I run podcasts on the YouTube channel. Geopolitics, culture, different things. You know, I've got one on the Russian channel. If you speak Russian, I've got one guy, Ruslan, who comes on. He's a Orthodox missionary, so we have more of a focus on the Orthodox Church. And he's from Western Ukraine. So he's here in Moscow now, refugee, basically from religious oppression. He's a canonical Orthodox Church. So we do more religious-based discussion in that case. So it all depends on the person. Mostly political, though, political and/or military. So discuss different events, and on the English side too. Depends on who I'm talking to. I've got a cool guy that comes on there, Michael Krop. He's a Polish historian that lived 15 years in Canada before he came back. So he's not doo-doo insane. Which, by the way, interesting. He said in one podcast, God, what's the guy's name? Not Dudu, the other guy. Tusk. Tusk is a political whore. So whatever the wind blows from his masters, that's the way he's going to lean. So when Hillary came with the overcharge, her button said перегрузка. Не перезагрузка, а перегрузка. Перегрузка means overcharge, like an electrical overcharge. So something that blows up. Перезагрузка means to reload. So either they're so ignorant they can't look it up even on Google what the hell it means, or find an actual Russian speaker, or somebody set her up. Lavrov was, laughing in his sleeve when she was there. But from I lost my train of thought there.
Sorry, man. I was trying to rearrange the screen where I could put this up without blowing up your face, but go for it.
Yeah, that's it. Crap! I totally lost my line. I thought when you disappeared, it just
Damn it! It'll come back.
damn it. Yeah, it'll
See,
come back.
officially-
I'll go take a go to the bathroom. It'll come back. That's
Yeah,
what I wanted
yeah,
to say.
You've
Right down
officially
here,
made
guys.
idiot status.
This is idiot status. So this is Stas's YouTube channel, Mr. Slavic Man. Make sure you go over there, subscribe to that channel, and check it out. In fact, I'm watching a very interesting interview you did with Scott Ritter. I haven't finished watching it, but that was really cool. So go ahead and check that out. And then here is the other link for Stas's Telegram channel. Stas was there, English 2. I'm going to have both of these links in the show notes. In fact, the YouTube is there. The Telegram isn't there yet, but it will be. So
The reason it's 2 is I had the original Stas was there English channel didn't allow. I badly set it up, and it didn't allow people to leave. Let's see. Actually, there's a reason I had to rechange that. Actually, that still doesn't allow comments. I'm probably gonna have to rechange that so people can leave comments. I might have to do Stas was there English 3 eventually. Unfortunately, but yeah, I had to redo the Russian one the same way because people couldn't leave comments.
all right, let's see what we have here. Any questions? We kind of got off topic a little bit, didn't we?
Yes and no.
But it kind of happens, you know. All right. Thanks, Edelwolf. Where's Edelwolf? Yeah. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. Appreciate
We
it.
never stay on topic.
We never really do. But let's kind of bring it back if we can a little bit. So how does this exceptionalism manifest itself in Russia? And what have we seen? What examples can we talk about?
Besides Trump getting on the phone and telling Putin that's enough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
More personal and more how should I say, closer to Russia.
I have a personal one for you that I ran into this weekend.
Go for
I
it.
had a guy who set up a consultation with me on how to move money from his account in the United States to Russia. And he put it on my calendar in the middle of our night. And then a half hour later, he's sending me an email saying, how come I didn't get a confirmation email with your Telemost link in it? I was like, dude, I sleep at night. You know, have patience.
Wait, you mean when it's day there, it isn't day here?
Well, it's supposed to be because they say so.
How do you take
Absolutely. All right, folks.
Yeah, I run into that a lot.
it?
For those of you, let me just do this quick plug right quick for westtofreedom.com. This is Kevin Michelizzi's website. If you're interested to know how to move money legally from outside of Russia into Russia, this is the place to go, westtofreedom.com. If you're thinking of moving to Russia, if you're thinking to visit Russia, which you should do first, visit before you decide to move, go see this website, go talk to Kevin, and find out how you can do that, and he will help you out. Go for it.
I will tell you this. First of all, you can carry $10,000 with you before you have to. Well, okay, carry 9,900 before you have to announce it. The U.S. government may take it from you anyways, even if you're flying out. They've been known to do that. So carry at least a few thousand with you. I don't know if you carry all of it. But once you get to Russia, even as a tourist, you can set up a bank account. So when you're here, you can set up a bank account. It'll take a while. Just expect that because of bureaucracy and not being a citizen or not being a legal resident. But even as a tourist, tourists can set up bank accounts. They can't buy property. As a foreigner, the only property you're not allowed to buy in Russia is agricultural land as a non-citizen.
And border
And,
regions.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, and the border regions. But you're not going to be allowed in the border regions anyways. I mean, you could go to a border region to cross, but some of the cities are closed because they're military bases, and you can't live right on the border because you're a foreigner. So that's it has its reasons. But the agricultural land you can rent. So if you're a farmer and you want to come to Russia, that's, the land is going to cost you less than your equipment. And if you're getting it from the government, they'll put you on a 49-year lease, because that's what it is for foreigners. But almost all those leases are with an option to buy. You get your citizenship 5-6 years or less, depending on what program you're going through, and you just buy the land out from the government.
And if you're thinking you want to come to Russia and be a farmer or anything else, but you want to visit Russia first, go check out this website. It's my website, worryfreerussia.com, where we hope to answer your questions about how to visit Russia easily, without worry, without stress. And if you are visiting Moscow, I do offer concierge service. If you want a personal, more in-person experience and help, we can help you with that as well.
And by the way, my wife also teaches English for Americans. She can do it online. So even though you don't need English, English. She teaches Russian for Americans. Some Americans probably need English too. So.
Locked up.
It happens.
Listen, I worked in Halliburton with a guy by the name of John Messerschmidt. If he's watching, he's probably gonna get pissed off at me. He was, yes, from that family, those Messerschmitts. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, go look up some history. So John was born in the U.S. He only spoke English, but he wrote me a couple emails. I'm sitting there, and my office is like 2 offices away from his. I'm reading them, and I'm reading them, and I'm reading them, and finally I'm going in, what the hell do you want from me? Because I can't understand anything you're saying on this. So, yeah, but my wife teaches Russian. She taught in the U.S. She teaches it remotely. So even if you can come and immigrate to Russia without Russian, but that's on a temporary visa, you're still required to learn Russian before you get permanent residency. So you're just given 3 years of living in Russia. But believe me, you need to learn Russian.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, that's how it is.
A lot of people say, I'll move to an American community where everyone's speaking English, but they don't understand if you need a plumber, he isn't going to speak English.
Nope. And there aren't that many American communities, and the ones that are expensive. Just understand that, because they're made for a foreigner, and they're gonna have a foreign price tag along with it. That's how it is.
We can talk about that briefly, because we have run into issues helping families find accommodation here in Russia. And what I have discovered in my own search for trying to help people is that the rents that are being commanded to house a foreign family are a lot higher than what we expected. And so it's more expensive if you're a foreigner, obviously, to want to move to Russia. So whatever budget you are figuring for a monthly budget that you think you can, if you just go to Avita and kind of look and see, well, this apartment, has four-room flat in Moscow for, equivalent of $1,600 per month, US. You might want to consider that to be at least $2,000, maybe $2,200 per month, to be more accurate. So this is something that I've come across in the past week. It does cost a lot more money.
However, if you don't want to live in Moscow, which I know everybody wants to live in Moscow, but here's the reality of it. If you don't mind, for example, village life, but you're definitely going to need to really learn Russian. People will help you out. They're not mean. But if you go, like, for example, Tver province, Tver Oblast, which is northwest of Moscow, in those villages, and how those villages are dying out because the young have left and the elderly are left. But I mean, you can buy a small wooden house, izba, say it's 1 story, 3 room, maybe about 100 square meters. So it's about 1,000 square feet. 10 to 1. Interestingly enough, it works out that way. You can buy that and about a hectare of land for about $1,500, $2,000. It probably won't have running gas. It may not have a running toilet. It might be an outdoor toilet, but you can build a toilet in and build in the plumbing. It'll have electricity, and most of them will have. A lot of those villages have gas lined up to it. They just don't have it connected to the house because people didn't have the money for it. But if you can buy a house for $2,000, $3,000,
that's village life, but you don't
for another $1,000, $2,000.
Sure, you don't even have to go that far. Just go into the region, Moscow region, in any of the cities in Moscow region. It's going to be much cheaper than it is here in Moscow. The issue is going to be transportation. You're going to need a vehicle. Yeah, you're going to need a car.
Well, another advantage of buying the property with an old broken down house on it is you have a place to register.
Yes.
Cheaply, and you can remodel it into a new modern house, and you aren't bound by the new building permits and things. A vehicle, heck, I just did 2 weeks worth of videos on that. Vehicles, you can get a cheap vehicle in Russia. If you want brand new, you can buy a vehicle for $1.5 million, 2 million rubles, $15,000, $20,000, or you can buy yourself a good old 1970s Lada for about $500.
That's what I want.
Expect about another $500 for fixer-uppers afterwards.
Hey, I tell you what, I want a Lada, but it's going to be not my transportation. It's going to be my hobby, my mechanics hobby. Okay.
And it'll keep you in shape as you push it to start it.
Those Ladas, by the way, they're really modded. You see some really modded out Ladas rolling around. So people get creative with them.
Yeah, and some loud. But I want to put a couple of, 12-inch subwoofers in the back. I want to trick it out. Maybe lower it to the ground a little bit. Yeah.
The pimp mobile.
Paint it, candy apple red,
The pimp Lada. You got to get a big furry hat like that,
There you go. Let's make it, You're
right out of I'm going to get you, sucker. Pimp of the year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shoot. Yeah. Why not?
And if you haven't seen that movie, I do suggest watching it.
Fun movie.
Back when American comedy was actually comedy. So it's basically, every snowflake is going to explode if they ever watch it.
Maybe that's what the world needs.
Maybe that's what they need. Yeah. So how long does it take to set up a bank account? About as long as it takes to walk in, get a number, be called, go up to the desk, and, you're paid 30, 45 minutes, an hour at tops.
Well, I think he's asking if he's a visitor. It may take a half a day or so. Just be prepared. Depends what bank you go into. But Sberbank will be faster. But make sure they're not going to speak English to you there. So you need to have somebody that speaks English. Photocopy your ID with a
migration card.
Your passport is going to need to have a translation before you set up a bank account. A notarized translation.
Yeah.
Notarized translation.
Absolutely is going to need a translation.
Sberbank doesn't ask for them here.
Really?
It depends on the branch.
Huh.
VTB
does. Do in Moscow. All of them do.
I want to let me tell you this quick story, because Saturday I was getting messages from my bank, which is Alpha Bank, saying that I get alerts anytime something's charged to my debit card. And I had 2 charges to Yandex Go for samokats, these little scooter bikes.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in my flat. I was like, one was for like 400 and some odd rubles, another one for 320, and they were like back to back within about 2 minutes. I was like, what the heck is going on? So apparently my card got compromised somehow. So this is a Saturday. So find my local branch of Alpha Bank. It was open. So I went there and I have an existing account, been a bank customer for over 2 years. And they still wanted to see my notarized translation of my passport. Well, the one that I carry with me all the time is a copy. I have my original at home. These guys wanted me to go back home, bring my original, and go back before they would give me a new card. Now, I always say that I have a personal VIP banker. Well, I do, but he works at a different branch. And that branch was closed on Saturday. So I could have gone in there, kind of walked in and just walked out with a new card easily. But this other branch wanted the original notarized translation. So you're going to need it. So the first thing you do, one of the first things you do before you go to the bank is go get a notarized translation. If you don't, you may want to go to a spare bank. If they don't ask you for it, great. But if they do, you're going to need it.
You're going to need it everywhere else, anyways.
And you're going to need it sooner or later.
And don't
sooner
get
or later,
one.
You're going to need it.
Notarization in Russia is a very big issue. It's not like in the U.S. where every secretary is a notary. Yeah, you can set up with a 3-year tourist visa. Any tourist can set up a bank account as long as you're legally in country. But expect that it's going to take about 3 to 4 days to get your most notaries to get a translation. Most translating services also have a notary service, or they work with a notary. So they'll translate it. Make sure you look or have a Russian with you that can read the language and make sure they translate correctly, because they'll put in some crazy ass crap. And make sure they spell everything correctly, because then that'll be an issue too. It's bureaucracy, but just forewarned is
it's thick here.
Yeah. That's one thing you got to get used to. The bureaucracy is thick. So you got to have patience. But you get about 3 copies made, just right off the bat. 3 notarized copies. You'll need them, trust me. And if you're going to move to Russia, first of all, let's do this straight. If you're going to move to Russia, any of your university records, get them apostilled in the U.S. You're going to need it. Any awards, anything like that, you're going to need copies and apostilled for your education. Birth certificates, you're going to need your kids' birth certificates. And it drives them insane because the U.S. has an insane policy with birth certificates, because every state has its own birth certificate. And they really can't figure out why in the U.S., my kids are born in different states, and they're looking at it like, ah! Oh, yeah, they're all American. Ah! Yes, they are. But why are they different? Because that's how it is. Just deal with it. And I'm speaking Russian to them. If you're going to go to the translator, it'll be a little more difficult. But that's how it is. No other country, by the way, does that. Now that I'm aware of. Almost every other country, just one type of birth certificate, one format. U.S. is 50 formats.
Yep.
So be ready for that. Marriage certificates, absolutely, you need them translated. You cannot
divorce
buy
certificates.
Property. Yep.
And apostille.
Yes, and apostille. Military service, you're going to need to have that translated. You cannot buy land or a house, or sell land or a house, if you're married and you don't have your wife's or your husband's, depending on what. And no, we don't have husband, wife. So screw that idea right out of the window. We're not Europeans. We own a fourth of Europe, but we're not Europeans. So you cannot sell property or buy property without your spouse's consent. Even if you're the sole owner, like, my house is registered strictly to me, but if I die, my wife gets it as an inheritance because she's next in line automatically. But I can't sell the house without her permission, because that's the law. You're gonna need a criminal background check, and here's where it gets really tricky if you're from the U.S. Criminal background check it's a federal criminal background check. It has to be no older, when you're filing for residency or citizenship. Well, you're filing for residency. You need the criminal background check. It has to be notarized in the U.S. Luckily, they don't really get the difference between a notary that's a federal notary and a state notary. And here's the key point here. If you're getting a federal notary, you ain't going to have enough time, because the federal government is broken as usual. And since COVID, a federal notary will take you about 2 months.
Current
State notary will take you,
current time to get the Secretary of State to apostille the background check is 3 to 4 weeks.
yeah, okay. I'm sorry, not notary, apostille. That's what I meant. Apostille. Yeah. Well, 3 or 4 weeks is actually down. It was up to 2.5 months, which is by that point, it's no longer good. State, like through the state of New York, I used Apostille Please service, and they notarized it. I had it notarized within a week. And the migration services here took it, as long as a government entity from the U.S. You can get the background check if you get the $18 version, maybe a little more expensive now, straight from the FBI. It's something like 3 weeks to get it. Or you can get it within a day, and they'll send you the PDF file the same day from one of the entities that they have listed on the FBI website, and it'll cost you about $80.
Most post offices will do it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the States. Not all of
You
them,
have to be in the States.
but you have to be in the States. Yeah, obviously.
So get that done before while you're in the U.S. It'll be a hell of a lot easier. Everywhere else, for all other sane countries, once you get your background check, you just go to the embassy, and they'll apostille it at the embassy. The U.S. Embassy doesn't do that, A. B, the U.S. Embassy in Russia doesn't accept American citizens unless you're getting a emergency passport to leave Russia. And that's been that way for about 3.5 years now. So you're not going to get any service from the U.S. Embassy in Russia.
Correct. Even emergency passports, because if you write them, tell them you have an emergency, it can take you 4 to 5 months to get an appointment with them.
Yep. There's your money at work, baby.
Yep. And their general answer to anything, if you get a reply from them by email, is go to Poland.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like FEMA. The general reply is go die in a mountain somewhere and leave us alone.
Exactly. So James asking, with the bank app, can I turn off the card when not needed? Yes, I can.
Yes,
I could have eliminated the card immediately and actually asked for a reissue of an electronic card, but I need a plastic card for other reasons, and so that's why I needed to go and get one. But yeah, you could do that, obviously.
Okay, I'm going to chime in as a former programmer, and I have my tinfoil hat on. Yep, there's the tinfoil. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm back.
Yes.
I will not put any banking app on my phone. If I have to go in a bank, I'll go through the website, because it stores your information, obviously. Your phone gets stolen, they will have access to all your information. Believe me, forensically cracking your phone isn't that difficult. B, I will not put, well, WhatsApp is Facebook to begin with, so that's all backdoored. And Telegram's also backdoored. I will not put any of these programs on my work computer, because you're just opening yourself up. If I have to send a file to print something out, I'll send it by email from my telephone that has Telegram onto my computer, and then pull the file off and print it out. I will not link my computer onto that, because again, it's backdoored. Lots of backdoors. So no way. It's minimal. It's at least minimal, firewall, basically. It's self-imposed firewall. So now you can call me paranoid.
Not paranoid.
My wife does.
Cautious.
Yes. Which is why you need to put a secure password on your phone, and you need to encrypt it.
And set up a self-destruction, a destructive device. And by the way, just for people who don't know how programming works, when you use the regular delete functions, nothing's deleted.
It's still there. Yeah.
The only thing that's deleted is the registry file that tells the operating system where to find that file. So what does that mean? Unless you run a program that goes all zeros or all ones, because that's all the computer reads is zeros and ones.
You're gonna wipe it
across the entire memory. That's a wipe. That's actual delete. What it does is it takes that file off the registry, and then next time it goes into line to be written over. But if it hasn't been written over, it's still there.
It's still
if
there.
your phone gets stolen, reestablishing those registries is not hard. So any of your financial information, anything on there, you just hit delete. It's not gone. Not really. You can't see it because the registry's been erased, but it's still on that system. So all these people that sell off their cell phones, their old cell phones, the only thing you should be doing with it is taking a hammer to it, or do the Hillary Clinton method of cell phone repurposing.
And here's the thing. You know how you can reset your phone back to factory settings?
Yeah.
My question is there a way to do a full wipe? Because I know iOS on some of my older phones, I haven't turned in an old phone in quite a while. It will erase and reset the settings, but does it do an actual wipe of the memory, or is it just writing over it?
It's writing over
So,
it.
if it's writing over it, and then you turn that cell phone in to the cell phone company, and then they just turn around and sell it or whatever they do with it, all of your information is still there.
Oh yeah,
somewhere.
Actually,
part of it
it's
is
even worse than that. I got when I was working Cameron, I watched a 60-minute clip and then sent it to my vice president, and then we got the whole policy changed. What turns out, when you have those big Xerox machines, now everybody knows there's some long-term memory in there because you can set up your account and then you can go through yourself. But what most people didn't realize is they have a terabyte hard drive on there. Every single file that goes through there is email, photocopy, or scan, or printout that's sent to that is logged in to that terabyte hard drive. And when they sell these machines, so the machine gets old, the company says, okay, take it away, give me a new one. They take them away, they put them in a storage facility, and then they resell them as used machines. Every single file is still on there. And these guys, they did a sting. They went and bought 3 machines in I think it was in Baltimore. 2 of the machines were from police department, special crimes unit, and one was from an insurance company. Everything, people's medical histories, the special crimes unit, children who were victims of rape and whatever, everything was on there. So that's how secure your information is. Now get paranoid.
now you can. William, thank you so much for the donation. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Edelwolf
All right, let's
says
get to some questions. Go for it.
even if the drive is reformatted, yes, absolutely. You can reformat that drive. All it is doing is writing over the directory block, and you actually have to use specialized tools to wipe a hard drive clean. And you as a typical user are not going to have access to those proper tools. It's the propaganda guys, the military guys that can do stuff like that.
Well, you can get some of them if you know what you're doing. You can buy them.
I have.
Really
I've
reformatted drive.
If you know what you're doing.
I've wiped mini drives in my past clean, but yeah.
You know the best way to wipe a drive? You take a big
Smash it
hunk
with
of
a hammer?
magnet and you just start running it until it zeroes everything out. One of those big bar magnets does a good job on it. And the best way to wipe a phone is a hammer.
Yeah, but you know what? I have not wiped a hard drive since SSDs came along. I mean, I'm talking about the old spinning drives. Those are the ones that I used to. Yeah, I haven't done one recently. Haven't had to.
Yeah, I've got a whole closet full of them. So, hey, Western exceptionalism.
What's my exceptionalism?
Hey, what
I had
what we do here is we go over to the local Daria, the Russian Home Depot, and they put a screw through the middle of the phone.
Yeah. Like I said, the Hillary Clinton method of repurposing a telephone works quite well, and hard drives too. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, new phone product in Russian, which would you recommend? Well, not all iPhone functions work in Russia. A. B. If you have to fix a new iPhone, it's going to run you because the problem with iPhones and things like that, if they have to replace a screen, there's actually an initialization program that has to be run to initialize that screen to the phone. And same thing with iPads and everything else. And they don't have the new copies, so they have to get broken copies from outside of Russia. That's how iPhone punishes us for being on the right side of history.
Yeah, is what's happening right now is you can have a Russian screen put in or a Chinese screen, but it gives you a warning in the settings that it's not an original display.
Yeah.
And if you can live with the little red check mark, it's not a big problem.
And I
Same thing with the battery.
I just purchased a new phone. This is an Honor 200. It's not available. I think it's not available in the U.S. market because it's a Huawei product. And it's my first Android phone coming from iPhone for many, many years. There are some features that I miss on iPhone, but this was $360 US. And let me tell you, I think I just said goodbye to iPhone. Yeah.
The thing that's important to remember if you're bringing a phone from the West, though, is that it's a tri-band phone minimum and that it's not locked to your carrier.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. Buy a phone in Russia. I mean, you got a much better choice, especially if you're buying Android back phones. You got a choice you're never going to get in the U.S.
Much cheaper too. Much cheaper.
Yeah, for anywhere between 15 to 18,000 rubles, which is like $200, you're going to get better. The camera may not be as good as a modern iPhone, but Christ's sakes, you're going to get a damn good phone for what, 1/8 the cost, 1/10 the cost. What's a new iPhone running these days? Like $2,000?
About at least $1,000. Yeah,
it's insane.
Yeah, you can get an iPhone 12 right now, and it runs 120,000 rubles.
Yeah. That's just freaking that's just nonsense. I mean, it's just so overpriced. It's the Gucci. It's the T-shirt with Gucci written on it. That's the same T-shirt that Nike has for 1/10 the price. Still made in China. For the same people. But it's Gucci.
So since we're speaking about Western exceptionalism and Pilot Play as being an ass out in the comments, I'm going to pick on him for a minute. This is the kind of attitude that will get your butt beaten in Russia. Do not come here if this is the kind of attitude you want. Are Russian women more comfortable in bed? And we had a couple of people ask him to stop, and he's going on about, oh, we're all 18, aren't we? And stuff like that. Stay wherever you are. Don't come here.
You know, there was an incident that happened about 6 years ago up in Murmansk. And if you don't know where Murmansk is, get a map. So Murmansk was flooded with immigrants, but they were heading to Norway. So they were legally on visas in Russia, tourist visas, and they'd fly up to or take a train up to Murmansk. So this is the warm months, obviously. Buy bicycles and then bicycle over the 50 or 60 kilometers, or maybe 100 kilometers to the Norwegian border and go, hey, we're refugees, blah, blah, blah. So Norway was accepting them for a while, and because of this, it became a whole train of refugees heading up to Murmansk. Well, Norway finally got sick and tired of it, so they started sending them back on their bicycles. But every week, the consulate there would accept a certain amount of applications and would accept a certain amount of people. So all of them were staying in Murmansk. So we had this incident with, I'm not sure which Arabic country they came from. But apparently these refugees had enough money to go party. And they went to a bar and they boozed it up. And there was about 30 of them. They boozed it up, and they started getting on the local women. Okay, as I said, we're not Europeans. We own a fourth of Europe. We're not Europeans. They got massive fight, got their asses beaten. The police came in, continued to.
Oh,
I'm usually the one who does this.
that usually happens to me. But I'm on
Yeah.
battery backup, so I think I'm doing okay on my. Yeah, I'm doing good on my phone. What happened?
Yeah. Well, until he comes back.
Let's attack some questions.
Yeah, let's attack some questions.
I'll just do this one real quick. Doug, I want to thank Doug right now. Doug's wife, his wonderful wife, came to Russia and had a stopover in Moscow. And Doug was kind enough, through his wife, to give me 16 of these. I got like 2 cases of these. Thank you so much, Doug. I appreciate it. And when I get back to Texas, yeah, we're going to have to hook up. But
and at the price that it cost you to buy them here, that's $1,600 worth of mints.
That's quite it's expensive, man. I really appreciate it, Doug. Thank you so much. But in case you missed it, how recent does a background check have to be, and how long is it good for? And the short answer is 90 days. That's 90 days from the day
The
that FBI sent your results back. So that clock starts clicking pretty quick. But Doug, thank you so much, and we'll be talking some more soon.
Yeah. So on that note,
here he is.
Growing Up Rosie. She has a background check from the U.S. from 2023. Current legislation is even though you're in Italy, you're going to need the Italian background check. You are also going to need a U.S. background check. You can ping Eddie or I on our websites or in Telegram, and we have the process for you to be able to get one from Russia. So you can send to the United States, get it back within the 90 days.
Oh, and just I want to put this up here too. It is Kirkendall, and I know this because I'm Texan, just as Edelwolf knows it in Kentucky. Yeah. All right, what's next? Stas, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You were in the middle of a hellacious story when we lost it. We lost it when the cops showed up, and then they continued the beating that the locals were giving.
So you wound up with 18 guys in the hospital, and all of them deported. It never repeated itself. So yeah, it's hang up that attitude, and if you have that. By the way, if you look at most of the Americans have been arrested lately in Russia, it's why getting drunk and getting into fights. One was actually attacked 2 cops. I mean, okay, first of all, if this was America, he would have been a corpse a long time ago. By the time he started the attack, he would have been probably shot. Suicide by cop, as they call it. Here they just beat him and then took him to jail, subdued him, and then took him to jail. And he's alive. He just got, I think, 3 or 4 years. For
attitude adjustment, it's called.
Yeah. So don't do stupid things. Don't attack the cops. Don't attack anybody else. Don't steal people's property. Don't break things. You'll be fine.
Don't get loud and abusive with your language.
No sexual displays in public. No, you can kiss your wife or something like that. But
hold the hand.
The anti-homosexual law isn't anti-homosexual. It's anti-sexual propaganda to minors. It doesn't matter. It's heterosexual, homosexual, or 1,500,000 other genderized whatevers in the West. And nobody's going to care about your pronouns. You're going to get the pronouns of your gender, and we're going to judge your gender by the way you look. So oh well.
What goodies you have? Yes. You go to the doctor, you got the right goodies, you know what gender you are.
Yep. It's whatever on your ID that happens to be there, and there's only 2. So, and by the way, transgender, the nut clipping and the breast chopping operations they do to children in the U.S. and in Western Europe, and it's illegal. It's flat out illegal. So, and that's a new law that was passed. So none of that. Nobody can turn your little Johnny into your little Jane.
And if you did this to your children in the United States, expect that you may have a difficult time immigrating to Russia if you allowed it.
Hard to claim them for traditional values. Well, Christ, that may become traditional values in the U.S. these days. The way that's all going.
Hey, Rosie, these are just trolls. You go to Russia and you have no free speech, and they will arrest you. I laughed and said, "Why would I be protesting in the streets?" Yeah, these are just trolls.
Yep.
I'll give you an example of Russian law. Everybody remembers Pussy Riot, the 2 girls that got arrested. They weren't arrested. There were 3 of them, by the way, and I'll get to the 3rd one in a second. They weren't arrested for protesting against Putin. They were arrested for charging in on in church property, disrupting a service. They got on the altar. They disrupt the service, and they did the whole thing. So the 2 of them went to jail for that. The 3rd one didn't. And the reason she didn't is because she didn't commit the crime. Not that she wasn't trying to commit the crime. Security grabbed her, and she was physically unable to get up there to commit the crime. She had all the intention of committing the crime, but she didn't commit the crime, so she didn't go to jail, and she didn't get sued. She got released. Now, flip that over to Finland, which is a pure white and fluffy democracy. So about a couple months after that, they had a professor, a liberal professor, who got a couple of group of students together, and they made piss balloons, and they were going to the main Orthodox church in the middle of Helsinki, and they were going to throw on the altar. They're going to throw their piss balloons on the altar. Somebody knocked on them. They were arrested en route, and they all got 5 years. They hadn't committed a crime yet, but they had the intention of committing a crime. So it's pre-crime, basically. And they all got 5 years. So there's your justice systems.
Real justice.
Yep.
So figures is, you don't like Putin, you can say, I don't like Putin. People will probably look a little odd at you. Well, majority support him. But unless you're doing something illegal like breaking the loudness laws, or you're harassing people, or you're on private property, if you're a foreigner and you're starting a protest, you'll just get exported somewhere across the border. You'll probably be denied re-entry. Bye-bye. And you shouldn't be coming to another nation and starting shit like that in somebody else's home.
So, Rosie, do they translate in Russia from English to Russian? Yes. In fact, the documents you have translated to Russian have to be done in Russia and notarized by a Russian notary. If you're down in the south of the country, my wife is a certified translator, and we work with a notary, so we can hook you up.
The reason they don't take somebody else's translation is just to a notary, because the notaries probably don't speak English, and they trust only certain translators that they're going to get the translation right that they work with.
And many notarios, many notaries here in, at least in the Moscow area, have translators in the same office. So they will go ahead and translate it, and then they will certify it there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it'll take
Our
about 3
notary
days.
Does not, our notary does not. She calls my wife. So, but she had to prove that she had a degree in linguistics and a specialty in English, or the notary wouldn't use her.
Yeah, because the notary, if the notary signs and it's not real, the notary's committing a crime.
Yeah.
So
here notaries are not like in the West, where they mail you a rubber stamp and you can stamp what you want and nobody cares. Here, it's a legal document.
Yeah. And be prepared, it's going to cost some money. The average translations with a notary stamps are all going to run you about $30-$40.
When I got married, I had to provide a stack of translations, and it was about $160 US, and it took about a week. Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'll say this: some notaries have translators who don't fully understand English. They trust them and they'll take them, but check your document after it's translated to make sure it's correct. Because I tell you what, my passport translation would have been wrong big time had we just accepted what they did.
Yeah, luckily, I mean, being bilingual, you look at it like, eh.
Yeah.
I had a notary service, and I'm director of supply chain for Eurasia, right? And I sent them my my American passport. At that point, I was only a U.S. citizenship, and they translated it. And I was putting in for the pension system, so the documents are going to the pension system, and they mistranslate my orchestra, my patronym. It's not quite a middle name. In Russian. And I'm looking at it, it's like, what the hell did you do? It's not the right vowel. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Like, frick, no, it does matter. In Russia, if you've got the wrong letter in your name, you're a different person. Who the hell who are you bullshitting? You could bullshit some foreigner. You can't bullshit me. I know the system. So fix it. And they were screaming and moaning, oh, it's all done. And I turned around to my director of supply chain for Russia and said, fire them. They don't quite realize, first of all, who they're dealing with. I'm the guy that can get them fired, not fire them. Get a new tender, get a new company, because they're doing this crap. And they're looking, and I got a Russian name, and they can't translate the Russian name from the English to the Russian. Standardized Russian correctly? Yeah, okay. And then instead of going, oh, my bad, we'll fix that. No, they start arguing about it, like, get rid of them. Obviously, these guys are incompetent and too stupid to figure out they're translating a Russian name from English to Russian. I mean, it's pretty standardized translation. So yeah, that's a whole different level of stupid.
the quite honestly, my wife's first visa to Russia, fully Russian name, same thing. They translated it on her visa incorrectly, and we had to do a legal name change in Russia before she could do more documentation.
I had that happen.
Irina, you can't get more Russian than that.
I had one. It was back in 2000. The visa had my patron translate again. It's my patron. Had it translated incorrectly. I mean, frick, it's a Russian name, you idiots. Just spell it in Russian. But yeah, some clerk screwed up. But they let me through 2000. It was pretty loose back then.
Well, this is it. My last name, Gonzalez, Gonzales. But in Russian, it's the equivalent of Gonzales.
And that's who you are for the rest of your life here.
My first visa, I didn't know Cyrillic. I didn't know, anything. So they send it to me and I see it. And it wasn't until years later when I learned, and I was like, hey, y'all are spelling my last name wrong. It's not spelled that way. No, that's the way it's spelled from now on. So from now on, in Russian, it is the equivalent of Gonzales.
But hey, at least you're not Gonzales.
No, I'm not Gonzales. Yeah.
Because in Russian, I don't know why, but if it comes from Latin and it's a he, it gets translated as a ge, and if it's a ge, it gets translated as a he. My grandfather, who was German, was Josef Hartmann. Hartmann means hard man in German, which is an aristocratic name. So, make short story long, he was born in the Eastern German Empire. That became Western Poland. Then he got taken prisoner. He was an officer in the Polish horse cavalry. He's a surgeon. He got taken prisoner. And then, by the way, when they say the Soviets shot all the officers, they didn't. Obviously, my grandfather was shot, and he was a German. He spent a year in a camp, POW camp, then joined the Red Army. But Hartmann got retranslated as Gartman. And Gartman in German means gardener. So he got socially demoted instantly from Joseph Hartman to Joseph Gartman. And I don't know why they do it, because we've got both sounds, but for whatever reason they do that.
Yeah.
So
Gomberger.
You're not you're lucky you're not Hansalas.
Yeah. I would have had a problem with that.
I don't know why they do it, but they do it.
So Eddie, apostilled in the land of origin, but translation done in Russia. Simple answer, yes, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it's translated and notarized in Russia.
In Russia.
Right.
Yeah. If it doesn't need a notary translation, you can get it translated anywhere, because obviously it's not. But almost everything that's translated is going to have to be notarized. And when they notarize it, they'll put little strings through it, bonnets, little
and a stamp over the edge. Yeah. A seal.
Pretty
so
fancy.
What if I use 3 last names in the past, such as paternal, then married, then maternal? Your birth certificate's different than your official name on your passport. You will need to show the paper trail of all your name changes. So marriage certificate, you took this name. Divorce certificate, you went back to that name. You did a name change, you need the paper trail.
Yeah. Yeah, my mother's having a problem with that right now, because when they got their names, when they got their naturalization paperwork in the U.S., they changed their names, and there's no trail, because when you become a citizen of the U.S., you can just write in whatever, and then that trail broke. So now we're having problems getting her citizenship because of that. They changed my name, and I just changed it right back as soon as I became an adult. So I didn't have any problems, because there you go. But same thing as the birth name. But that became a big problem. But if you're born with whatever name you had or family name, and then you can do the trail, then it won't be a problem. But make sure you do have the paper for the trail.
So yesterday, yes, I mentioned that foreign buyers need to purchase a specific type of apartment. You want a kvartira, not an apartamente. So if you look on like a Vito, or what's the other Rion that
There's a bunch of them.
Property, yeah, look for kvartira, because you can't be registered in an apartamente.
An apartment is actually not a legal entity, like a flat or whatever. It's not actually a legal entity. It's in a quasi state. So yeah, you can't get registered. It's not recognized as.
So this one, William. Before you open a bank account in Russia, you need a notarized copy of your passport. Depends on the branch. Stas has seen that most of the banks in Russia require it. I have a friend who just went to Moscow. He went to VTB. They required it. Sberbank didn't. And it could be that you go to the same Sberbank tomorrow and they'll require it. So it just depends on the day of the week, the teller you get. Welcome to Russia.
When I went to Alpha Bank to open my original bank account, my first one, I did not need notarized translation. When I went to Spare Bank and opened a second account there, they took my copy of my notarization. Then when I went to go get a new card, because that story that I just told a few minutes ago, I had to take the original with me. So each bank branch going to have different rules on different days of the week.
Just consider this: there are hundreds of banks, different banking companies in Russia, but there's only maybe a dozen national chains. Don't go to VTB. VTB is worst. I had them as a business bank at one of our businesses, and they were just horrible. They're like 15, 20 years behind everybody else. I don't know how the hell they get some government contracts, but other than that, Sberbank is probably the best one you can go through, or Alpha Bank.
Yes.
You can go Tinkoff or T-Bank now, but they don't have branches. That's a big problem. You have to go in. So if you're a citizen, it's pretty easy. But again, I don't trust a bank that you can't actually physically ever go in.
The other problem with T-Bank is if you're transferring money from the United States, T-Bank 99.9% of the time will block your account until you bring them, or until they send a courier to your house to review all your documents to prove source of income.
Yeah, that's, in fact, I got Raiffeisen, and I'm having to go back there and tell them one more time, like I do every year, I am a Russian citizen, because I got it before I was a citizen, and they can't seem to get in their system that I am a Russian citizen. Been there for many years. What the hell? Every year we need to check if you're still have residency.
Yeah, I get that with Alpha Bank too. I opened my original account with them on my U.S. passport. I've had to travel to the mainland to show them my Russian passport multiple times, and they can't seem to press the button to put it into the computer. So every time my passport expires or the beginning of the year, they always block my account and say, you have to come in and prove that you're a Russian citizen.
Absolutely. Any divorce, any of your divorces, you need to have it. You need to have the paperwork. Otherwise, you're still considered married.
Yeah,
So,
you essentially have to prove
twice.
that you're single to get married.
And not only that, there will probably, depending on your state of residency in the United States, if you are an American, you're going to need a certificate from that state. It's going to have to be apostilled in the state as well that says you are not currently married. So you need all your divorce certificates and this additional form that verifies that you are currently not married. In
Luckily,
Texas,
I never had to go through that. So
yeah, in Texas, it's called, oh my gosh, can't even remember what it's called. But anyway, there is a form for it in every state. You're going to need it as well.
I'm married to the same woman, and only one woman, and she tolerates me, so that's already something. So, that's a finder right there.
Count
Just the
your
fact
blessings.
she tolerates me.
Count your blessings.
Yeah.
So Stas, this is actually a question for you, because I still haven't wrapped my mind around this, but an apartment is not someplace where you can rent for a couple of months as a tourist and be registered, because you still have to be registered. The reasoning behind it, I still don't have my mind wrapped around. Can you explain that for our viewers?
No. That you just
okay. Yeah.
Something
you need a kvartira.
But here's the good news. You no longer, whenever you have to re-register, like you've left the country, for example, if you're doing a visa run, you have to leave the country, then come back in the country. You have to re-register if you're not a citizen, obviously. But if you're a citizen, you would be doing a visa run. But every time you leave, or you leave on a business trip or whatever, you come back, you have to register. Or before, you would have to get the apartment owner to go down there with you. That's why a lot of people didn't want to rent to foreigners, because they didn't want the hassle. Now you can just do it yourself. So
if the owner is smart enough, they can do it online.
The problem, I'll tell you straight up, the problem why a lot of people don't want to rent to foreigners, or they up the price, because that now covers the taxes. Here's the point. Most of your rental contracts are going to be 11 months, and they're never going to get registered.
Yeah.
That way, they don't pay taxes on it as an income, right? So, Citizen A rents for Citizen B. They get around the law by not registering the contract. It's 11 months. It's a year. It absolutely has to be registered. So it's a loophole in the law. But if I rent to a foreigner and I have to register that foreigner has to register. That means he's renting from me, and now that's been recognized by the system. That means I've got to register with the tax services that I have a secondary income from or passive income from my apartment that I'm renting, or house, or whatever. So that's why they'll up the price, is to cover that taxes that they otherwise would be skimping.
Yep.
So people play the
So
loopholes.
Wolf, thanks for promoting me. Yes, I am the Grand Master of Dinghy.
He's the big man. What other questions we
and
got?
to go with that, Rosie, what type of cash should you carry? The couple thousand you bring with you, euros or dollars, are great. You can bring Great British pounds if you really want to, but you will find very, very few banks that will take them from you.
And only pounds that are now plastic. They won't. I had some old pounds, and you can't do crap with them because they're paper. They're the old version. But it doesn't matter what you bring, because you can't buy anything with dollars or euros. You bring them and you change them to rubles. Otherwise, people look a little weird at you, because they really, somebody may accept it, but it's under the table. They're not allowed to accept rubles or euros. It's only one currency in the country.
And they have to be perfect bills. No
Perfect
folds,
bills.
no creases, no ink spots, no wrinkles.
But you know why? Because the U.S. government, when they try to take and cash us those checks back through to U.S. banks, the U.S. banks are working toward a cashless society. So they will not accept any money that's crinkled or what have you, even though they're U.S. tender. And the Europeans are doing the same thing.
So, question for me: am I planning to live in Russia for the rest of my life? Well, since I live breath to breath, the answer is yes, because you never know when the end is going to come, and I don't see beyond that. But yes,
There's a
Old
good
Russian
Russian
saying that I've modified slightly is, the Russians will say, when it's your time, it's your time. God will take you no matter what you're doing, no matter where you are.
where you
Just
are.
hope you're not on the plane when it's the pilot's day.
Exactly.
There's another saying. Хочешь посмешить Бога, расскажи ему о твоих планах. So you wanna make God laugh, tell him about your plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What did I hear today? People who have had plans haven't been punched in the face yet.
Yeah, enough.
Sergey is giving a. Oh,
Go ahead. Where's Sergey?
I was going to say, Sergey's given a warning here. Yes, do not try to bring euros over the EU border if you're coming across one of the land borders, because they will confiscate it. Some of the countries are limiting you to something like 20 or 30 euros.
Wow.
Yeah,
so I can help.
So wait a minute. These are the same countries that if you're coming from the other side, they'll confiscate your car and your toothpaste.
Yeah. Same guys.
Yeah. But that's democracy, baby.
Yep.
And CJ Hendricks here says, if you plan to move to Russia and don't care to learn the language, history, laws, along with respecting the culture, the wrong outlook. And that pretty much sums up the podcast tonight.
Yep. So
be normal.
I know who Christopher is, and this is a very Christopher question. And I'm not sure which one of this is aimed at, because he probably considers us all Yankee Doodles at some point in our lives. Do you feel or consider in your soul that you're 100% Russian or a few percent Yankee Doodle?
I'm 100% Speedy Gonzalez. That's me.
Hey, I take that as an insult. I'm 100% Russian, and I'm a Southern adopted son of the South, rebel. To hell with the Yankees. You know what the difference between a Yankee and a damn Yankee is? The damn Yankees won't go home.
It's a good one.
Yeah. I am 99.9% Russian. Eddie's calling me Russian all the time because of my attitude with my clients. Take it or leave it. I have some Americanisms with me, and occasionally I go, why the hell can't they fix that? And my wife will slap me up along the back of the head and say, you're thinking like an American again.
My American exceptionalism is this. It's customer service. And I forget I'm in Russia. I do. I really, really do. Because I come from a customer service background in that, we worked for the public, so the public is king. And here, it ain't that way. And so, I don't know. That's my pet peeve, but that's my cross to bear. So my exceptionalism comes to this customer service. And sometimes you get really good customer service here in Russia. But for the most part, you don't.
It depends on the company. It really depends on the company.
Depends on the company and actually the person that's serving you. It comes down to that.
Yeah. And by the way, customers, I mean, anywhere you're in any bar, it's a restaurant, with very few exceptions, tips are not built in. So most people will work for the tips.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Eddie knows I bought a new car over the weekend. Great dealership, great to deal with. After they got my money. So
yeah, but I ran into that in the U.S. too. Once they got your money, it's go pound sand.
So you don't go into the service department and have 5 guys waiting there to write up what service you need, and they're going to work on your car. It's we'll call you when we can fit you in, and if they ever call you, you may have to call them 20 times. No follow up. So.
Service after the sale?
No service after the sale.
I've had decent service, but the salesmen suck. And I'll tell you the simple. No, really. When it comes to sales and cars, the U.S. salesmen, I mean, the ones that appear right beside you, like out of a puff of smoke, like a vampire in a cartoon, they are. The problem in Russia is all those salesmen are working on a contract basis. So they're employees. Firing an employee is not that easy. It's not like in the U.S. I can fire you because I don't like your socks. Or I'm having a bad hair day, so I'll decide to fire a few people. And because of that, they're getting a decent salary just for sitting their asses there. They're not all based off commission. Now, if you hire them as EPs, individuальный предприниматель, and then put all their work as percent, you get really good salesmen. But they don't do that. I don't think they even realize they can do that. So most of your salesmen in car lots, you got to ask them to get off their ass, or like almost beg them to get off their ass and tell you something about a car. Like, I'm too busy playing Tetris, or Candy Crush Mountain, or whatever the hell they're playing. Snakes.
That comes kind of difficult to me because I'll just tell you this little quick story. My father sold cars at a Chrysler dealership, same dealership for 35 years. So I know about selling. I know about the car markets, or at least in the States. And if I walked into a car dealership and didn't see a salesman hop right up and come to me and try to sell me a vehicle, I'd want to walk out of the place.
Eddie, let's go set up a used car sales shop.
I'll do it.
We'll do them as EPs, because you can fire an EP because all you're doing is ripping up a business contract with them and put them on straight commission with a minimal pay. Basically set them up as an American style, just EP, and they'll do it. We'll teach them, and they'll do it because they're going to have a choice.
They don't have a choice, exactly.
And it'll be a revolution in Russia. Believe me.
Oof.
We can lead that revolution.
I'll do it.
And also mini golf. There's no mini golf in Russia, which is really
cool. There's no mini golf.
So I'm going to address this with the story about the car dealership again. As a prior Nissan salesman, I always recommend it. Those looking to buy, do not just focus on the car. Look at the service area and see how many people are there and how they're being treated. Good luck in Russia. The dealership I went to, I actually bought from the former Nissan dealer, which doesn't exist in Russia anymore. They're selling off their last cars, and then you will not be able to get them or spare parts anymore. I actually went there to look at a Moskvich because they sell both, but it's two separate dealerships, one building, owned by the same guy. The Moskvich guy was off doing something, and we wandered around. There were about 5 people waiting to talk to him about buying cars. And after about 10 minutes, I looked on the other side of the room and I saw the Jet Tours. And so we went over there. I bought it. And afterwards, my wife went up to this Moskvich guy when he finally came back and said, well, you lost a sale because you weren't here. And he shrugged his shoulder and says, I don't care.
Yeah. He's going to get a salary regardless.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, well, nobody knew how to set up a proper car sales. It's just flat out, and it hasn't changed because nobody's. I've thought about it so many times. You know, I mean, I never sold cars. I was sitting without a job, and I went. It was after the .com crash. So I was out of the army already, and I was doing software development. It was just all short-term contract. So I know, you know, I'll do something different. And can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Okay. So I went to a Ford dealership and I went through the interview and they were, you're great. Yeah, you're a real person, people person, blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like, yeah, do I really want to sell cars? Because I know how annoying those people can be. But they had a banner up for big sale, blah, blah, blah. You know, I was like, hey, so what's the action big sale thing? Oh, that's up there constantly. People just like being lied to that they're in a sale. Fuck this. I don't want to be a car salesman.
I'll tell you, here's the thing. Constantly. Here's the thing about selling. It doesn't matter what you sell. It's just the act of selling yourself. Because if you can sell yourself, you can sell a car, you can sell a computer, you can sell a phone, you can sell whatever. So that's what it comes down to is just selling yourself.
I was always the car salesman's nightmare. Because one, I knew the prices of the cars. I look up the different dealerships. I go in there and show absolutely zero emotion because, you know, they're all emotion driven.
Yeah.
Smells the new car smells. Look at it. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Let's talk about the numbers.
And be willing to walk away. Yeah. Be willing to walk off the lot.
Yeah. I've done that. I've done that before. And I did it on, and you know, I came back to get service at this one dealership. The car dealer was pissed off and was they kept him from screaming at me because I'd gone to him and he was trying to blow sunshine up my ass. And I knew the price of the car. I went in there, first of all, to check the car out before I let my wife check the car out. And then I looked up, there was a program. I dropped in the program what I was willing to pay for that car. And I got a hit from another dealership that was in the same family of dealerships, just on the other side of Houston. They went there and bought it for like $6,000 less. But since they're the same dealership family, same company, they had to service my car when I had to get it serviced. And he found out I bought it from the office across the city. Like, you know,
that's the way it is.
Up my ass.
Another thing Westerners will find here is when you go on the dealership, they have the prices listed. That's the price. They will not negotiate. So you can push all you want. It isn't going to happen.
Because it doesn't give a damn if he sells a car or two. Because
that's why they're not motivated. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think maybe this used car lot might actually work. Because you've got wiggle room, you can kind of negotiate and haggle, and you know, hey, best deal today. It's 5 o'clock, and I haven't sold a car today. You're getting this one cheap, you know. So one way to look at it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had the whole setup when I, you go in, you'd scout out the dealership. If they had the board where you could see it, you're looking up who's lagging in sales. Wait till the end of the month. Go in. I want to talk to this guy. Yeah, he's desperate. I know he's desperate.
It's the 29th of the month, baby. It's time to look for a car.
And you're 2 cars behind. You're gonna get fired. Yeah, I can help you out with one of those 2 cars. Yeah. I had the whole mechanism worked out. Not that I bought that many cars because I tend to stick with the same car for a while. But yeah.
Edelwolf, are you trying to say dale gas?
He's trying to say, sell me a gaz.
Sell me a gas. There we go.
Oh, Patriots are not bad cars.
So, guys, we've been going for a little over 2 hours.
Yeah, my wife is going to have my R's. I've been on.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We have. Yeah, we need to hang it
so
up, guys.
I will answer this one last question before we go.
Go for
So,
it.
James, after successfully moving money to Russia with my help, where should it be placed? And I know he's referring to the people we started the show with. Seeing the missteps of someone else, you thought it would be worthwhile to ask? Yes, it's worthwhile to ask. You put it in a bank. Banks are giving 18+% interest on savings right now. You can get a regular savings account for 3 to 6 months. You put money in, you take money out. It's a no-brainer. You lock it up for 90 days or 6 months, and they will either leave the interest in that account that you've got locked up and you earn interest on the interest, or they'll pay the interest to your card, and assuming you have enough money on your card, you can live off the interest. Many Russians do that. So,
But
if you don't have a bank account before you come, you can transfer money, and we have an escrow service at Sberbank that we can put your money in and hold it until you open your own account, and then it gets transferred in.
Just consider a couple things, though. If you're transferring P2P, you cannot, if you put too much money at one time, so you've sold off your Bitcoin and you drop it all in your card, for example, around 1 million rubles at a time, you'll probably get that card locked up. And then you got to go to the bank and explain where that money came from. So if you've sold a house, you go, look, I've sold the house, I'm transferring the money. You got to show. If you put a smaller amount on there every month, say something like 700,000 rubles, they'll ignore it. Bank dependent, of course. Or you can get it in cash and then just drop the cash through a banking machine onto your account that way. So you can get around that.
And if you guys want to know, we have ways around all of that, legal ways and agreements with at least 2 of the banks in the country. Just set up a consultation with me down there, westofreedom.com. Claudio, after that 3 months, can you open another account and have the same rates? Yeah, you can. In the case of Sberbank, if you have 2 million rubles or more, they will actually let you open up the same account for another 3 months. After that, it originally 2 months ago, my account reverted to 10%. They've raised that to 12 now. I did lock most of it back up into one of these 3-month accounts, and they increased that from 16.5 to 17.5. So, but I have the agreements in place. We can avoid what Stas is talking about. But yes, if you're selling crypto and you're putting it in your bank yourself, you get all these little transactions, the bank will likely block your account.
And then you're going to show the paperwork to get unblocked because it's considered money laundering after a certain amount.
Yeah.
Then I've seen people money launder into Russia. You money launder out
usually
of
the
Russia,
other way. Yeah.
Into Russia. First time I ran into
that. We may be laundering our money into the special military operation.
Oh my!
But the first time I ran into that, literally, I was looking at the back. Are you freaking serious? Am I money laundering? Money laundering normally goes out of Russia, not into Russia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a law. Okay, fine.
All right, gentlemen. Well, what an evening. 2 hours and 14 minutes.
And my wife
Thank you all so much.
Hours.
Yeah, I hear you, man. All right, guys. Everybody have a great rest of the Sunday, and we will see you con el favor de Dios. This means with God's favor next week at the same time. All right. Have a good one.
Cheers.
We're out.
Bye.